welcome everybody back to the Orange Couch again here with Michael Pitts. We want to just talk to you a little bit of some practical things. First, a few technical things, and I think we're going to talk some about setting up worship sets and looking at how to flow. Maybe for some of you that really want to understand how to flow prophetically in a worship set, how to make that happen. So we're going to be talking about this in this Orange Couch session. So welcome back, bro. Before we get started, though, I get a lot of questions. I've been playing for quite a while leading worship, and people are always asking me questions. What's the best this, the best that? It's very hard to define the best because we all have our personal taste, but I will share some of my personal taste with you. First is called a Snark. It is a guitar tuner. It is one of the best on the market that I have found. You're probably going to pay maybe 30 bucks for it, maybe get a little cheaper at different places. Find them at Guitar Center or things. It's called a Snark, S-N-A-R-K. But this is one of the most user-friendly and sensitive on the market. I mean, it can pick up and be dead on it. So, highly recommend this. I started using it a while back, and I have been greatly pleased with it and have found no better tuner. It just sits on the headstock of the guitar like this, like a typical tuner does. But it's great for live playing, because it picks up the resonance of the guitar even on a very light, just a very light pick like that, and it's already picking up the note. So I recommend that. The next thing that on my list of things I prefer is a Schubb capo, S-C-H-U-B-B. These are a little pricey than maybe the Kaiser capos that are out, but one of the reasons I really like this capo is it's not just a typical, full-on 100% tension. It gives you a small tuning key in the back or a turning key in the back to loosen it up. So what this helps for is for those of us that maybe are tuning fanatics, it really doesn't cause your guitar to go out of tune near as badly as one that's putting a lot of pressure on the strings. And then if you've ever noticed, every time you capo, you put it on and it seems like your guitar goes out of tune. This is one of the best capos for not allowing you to do that. So you can put it on and clip it down, and you can make it the tension be very stiff or very light. I usually keep a really light tension, because the lighter I can do the tension with a screw on the back, I'm not having to retune every time we may be changing keys. So those are just three things that I get asked a lot. So the Snark tuner, the Schubb capo, and then the last one is this. There is an app called the Guitar Toolkit. For those of you that have an iPhone, an iPad, or something like that, and I'm sure maybe on the Droid market you can get it as well, but it is called the Guitar Toolkit. This is the greatest thing I have ever found to be carried on your hip. It is a built-in tuner, built-in metronome, and it gives you almost every stringed instrument you could want. The beauty of that is that I can select a guitar, and I can bring it up on guitar and do a search. And then let's say I'm on YouTube or watching one of my favorite guitar players play. I can literally look at his hand, and then I can go to my app and I can just touch a string. And when I touch a string based on where fingers are placed, and I go through this and I make all my strings and put them down and touch it, it all of a sudden tells me, well, it's A major 11 over a G sharp. So this is great for those of us that are wondering, man, what chord is that guy playing? You may pause it like I did for years and slowly look and try to see where his fingers are, and then have no clue what that chord is. It's a something, I don't know, but it sounds cool. Well, this app actually allows you to touch the string of every one, and then it tells you the exact key that you're in and calls that chord out. So this is a great app. It's going to cost you maybe a few bucks at the App Store, but again, it's called the Guitar Toolkit. Got a little flaming pick on it. So, man, I highly recommend this. It comes in handy it's got a built-in tuner, built-in metronome, all kind of things. So those are just some practical tips for you. So let's move now to talking about set list. Building a set list. How do you do that? How do you make it practical, especially if you're in a church where they're giving you a little leeway, as a worship leader, you've got a little leeway. You're not really stuck to a 3 songs you're out, but you have a little more time to let songs breathe and work. So Michael, kind of start us from that practical. How do you start building your set list? How do you go through the songs that you're going to do and make them flow together I know on one of the orange couches, a while back that we did, you talked about flow, and that worship was a flow. So just walk us through that. Walk us through the process of how that works.
Well, for me, practically, apart from lyrically about the song, just the song structure and the keys and stuff. How I usually formulate my set list is I usually put all my songs in the same key. That way, transitions are really smooth. We have a lot of time, a lot of space to really, capture those moments and let the songs breathe. If you're not going to do them in the same keys, pick corresponding keys like from D to A or C to G or something like that. Keys that are really close together. That way the transitions are really, really, not awkward, or you don't have to, take off a capo and spend 30 seconds trying to, and everybody's kind of looking at you all awkward and stuff like that. So, just practically, just the keys.
Yeah. I think that's one thing I've seen, working a set list is I'll find maybe a song from Jesus Culture that I love that's in one key, but then I like a song that's in another key. And for flowing, for just open flowing, working that thing out, I've always tried, if a song is in C and another one's in B, I've always tried to work those together, move it back to B flat, move it up to B, to try to bring them together, because I think it is important when we're leading worship, those transition times, especially in churches where, the average church in America is probably around 100 people. So in churches where we may not be dealing with professional musicians or guys that can, read all the charts and you're using charts, you're basically using volunteers who are, good on their instrument, but learning how to flow practically, I found that's one of the best ways to do it, is just make everything in a key. It especially helps all your guitar players. It helps everybody just learn a key. They're not changing, having to, figure out different little riffs, but kind of get used to the fretboard. So now talk about flowing a little bit. Let's say we're in the key. I think we got it capo. So let's say B flat. We're in the key, or let's do F. That's in a D shape. We're in the key of F. Song's over. Let's say we've completed the song. We've done it. We've had time to worship. But some practical things you do when there's no words on the screen, there's no music in front of you. Do you have certain patterns that you like to play that are great for worshiping in an open environment?
Yeah, just some patterns that I like is a 6-5-4. Mm-hmm. That's a really cool pattern. A 2, what is that? A
2-4.
2-4. Something like that. Just something really easy. Maybe a 4-chord progression or a 3-chord progression that kind of just loops itself over and over and over. Something really easy.
So let's take it in the key of F. So we've got a D shape. So if we finish the tune out, what he was saying with the 6-5-4 is just, which is your minor chord, and then down to the 5, and down to the 4. And I think these patterns are great for an open worship to really just give that song time to breathe. A lot of people don't know, what do I play if there's no chords to play? And this works in any key you're in. You can do the 6, you can do the 5 chord, you can do the 4 chord, which is going to come into theory. We'll hopefully have an orange couch on theory coming up in the near future. But, just picking some of your chord progressions in that song. Let's say you're in the song of the key of F, and so you've got your practical B flats, you've got your C, you've got your G minor, you have the chords that are working within that. What I typically did when I was starting out is I would find the chords that were comfortable, and then I would just play through those chords, once the song was over. If we really felt we needed to have a prayer time or something like that, just even beyond running through the same chord pattern of the song. So again, just theory-wise, the 6 chord, which is typically the minor, and then down to the 5, and then down to the 4, are just really easy chord progressions. The other one is a walk up rather than down, and that's your 2. So that would be the G minor here, and then it walks up to the F over A, and then to the B flat, and it would sound something like this. So we'll do it again from the 2 to the 1, over, and then the 4. So when you're open flowing like that, it's great. Personally, if you're the guitar player or the piano player, it's great to get you some chords that you're comfortable with. That's what I found.
Yeah.
You're not really trying to impress anybody here. What you're trying to do is create an atmosphere.
Yeah.
And I've always said the simpler the better, because if you, the worship leader, are comfortable and you can flow. And also, I'll say this about those chord patterns. There's several we can introduce to you later, but just the 6-5-4 and the 2-1-4, those are something that once the band get used to playing, everybody starts learning to flow with that and work together with that. And before long, the band comes together, go, hey, I know that. When I was putting bands together, I would always just give them charts and say, here's our open flow. If we go into a time of flowing, here's the chords we're going to be playing. So that's a good thing to do. Not only did they learn their music for that week, but maybe some of the open flow. And hopefully we'll kind of throw some of those together. We'll put a PDF together for you that you can click on and download and maybe look at some of those charts of what we're doing in open flow. But listen, in flowing, don't ever be afraid to back a song down, move a song up a key. I think sometimes the temptation is, well, it was done in the key of C. That's too high for me, so I can't do it. Never be afraid to branch out a little bit. Bring it up, bring it down. But the real goal is capture the heart of the song, capture the flow of the song, and let the Spirit of God really move. So hey, I want to thank you again. Thank you for being back. Hey, remember some of those pointers. Hoped it helped you. We'll see you back shortly.